Welcome to Be Well. I'm Lisa Burgaw, pharmacist, yoga teacher, and health coach. Each week, we'll explore simple, science-informed ways for us to move better, feel more resilient, and feel more at home in our bodies. From breath work and strength training to sleep, hormones, and healthy habits, we're here to help you age well and truly thrive, one small step at a time. This is Be Well. Hi, it's Lisa Burgaw, and this is Be Well. And today I have my guest is my friend Marlene. Marlene Nickerson is a licensed marriage and family therapist, and she's also a certified grief counselor. And I asked her to be on the show, and we were talking about different topics we could be discussing, because there's just so many things that we could discuss in her world, right? And so we decided we were going to talk today about conflict and how healthy couples disagree. So welcome, Marlene.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for having me. Very happy to be here.
I love it. So tell me a little bit. I know you have not a funny story, a nice long history of how you became a therapist.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people ask that too. What kind of drove you toward this? And I don't have a long-winded story of, well, first I tried this and then I did that and found out I didn't like it. I always knew I was going to be a therapist, or wanted to be one,
I love that.
from watching the Bob Newhart show. And I'm going to date myself because I was like 9.
I love that.
So
I love that.
whenever that was going on in the 70s, I said, oh, I want a job like that. I thought he did a nice job. He was funny too, but he could connect with his clients. So I really just went straight for that, you know, taking psych courses in high school, and then declaring a psych major in college and in grad school, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a pretty easy track, for me. So.
And you are such a kind and compassionate person, and I think that's a big skill for a therapist, is to be a good listener.
Yes.
And what I think too, talking about couples disagreeing, having just a non-biased person there, like a mediator.
For sure.
Yeah. So it's not just, you see couples, I mean, I know you see families and all kinds of different clients,
Yes.
but to talk about couples primarily, but they're not always on the road to divorce necessarily, right? They're trying to maintain a healthy relationship,
exactly right.
and starting earlier.
That's exactly right.
Before things can really get out of control.
Yes,
Yeah.
and a lot of them have had, you know, a history of having a healthy relationship, you know, raise their children together and so forth, and then they come to a place in their lives where they just need a little extra help. Mm-hmm. But they're not necessarily on the brink of divorce. They're pretty healthy to begin with. They may have done some work in their past with another therapist or something along that line, and they come and they're stuck. You know, they say that to me, I'm stuck. How do you help us?
Well, and having that extra set of eyes, just like with any problem, having another set of eyes to see what's going on. Because sometimes we get in our own way.
Yeah,
but
we
sometimes we get in our
do.
own like a spiral.
Yes.
And you just need someone to help kickstart
That,
you get
absolutely.
out of it. Yeah.
And also, I think something that's important, and it depends on the style of therapy that you choose to do. But with my style, I'm not always, you know, completely fair in terms of, okay, let's balance this out. I do that a lot.
Yeah.
I'm also a Libra, so I tend to balance things.
Yeah.
But if I see something, you know, that was a little harsh, I can say, or could you say that differently? Or, you know, that referee in me is not completely, you know, if you get, you know, you both are right. If somebody's wrong, I have to, you know, call them on that.
Right.
And that's important.
And do most people just want to be right?
Oh, yeah.
Those are humans.
That's the biggest part of unhealthy conflict, is realizing it really isn't about you versus me. It's how do we solve this problem? But we get caught up with wanting to be right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And do they want you to take their side?
Oh, yeah. And they want to talk about their side over and over again to convince you. Mm-hmm. You know. Mm-hmm. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So.
And you had told me something off screen about a homework assignment that you often assign.
Yes.
You want to share that? Because I think
Sure.
this is such a great idea for any friends, family, like just to make time for
absolutely
conflict discussion.
I call them business meetings, but they can call them whatever they want. And basically what it is for the couple to assign a time, and start weekly, to assign a time that's undisturbed, no cell phone, no TV in the background, no kids in the room, and have a discussion about all of the things that they need that are coming up, whether it's finances, whether it's, I really didn't like your behavior last week when we were at this party, or we're preparing for, a holiday, but I'm kind of on the outs with my in-law. How are we gonna tackle that? It could be anything.
Right.
And once that kind of gets established, I find that they connect better. And then they start using their time like, oh, we didn't even talk about business. We actually had fun. We had brunch, stuff like that. And they get in the
I think it's
habit.
just making that time for each other too,
Yes,
and listening.
yes.
A dedicated point of time.
Absolutely.
Because what I find, when I get short-tempered or whatever, is I'm in a rush to go somewhere, and my husband will say something he wants to talk about right then, and I'm like, we don't have time to discuss that
That's
right
right.
now, or right before bed, and I
Yes.
just don't want to be talking about something serious
Yes.
before I go to bed, because then I'm going to start stewing about it.
Yes.
So
Timing is
yeah, so
absolutely
scheduling
really
that time
important.
and planning for it,
Yes.
and how you're going to use that time.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
they have, agenda items like you would in
I
any
love that.
business meeting. And
I
it's
love
like,
that.
listen, I'm going to want to talk to you about this. Kind of gives your partner a heads up, so they're not,
You're not attacking
blindsided
them.
or,
Yeah.
whatever. And then you can add things, and if time doesn't permit, you might have to table that or have another meeting during the week if it's successful.
That's great.
So, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then too, little triggers, that you might irritate each other. And maybe it's just because we're so familiar with our partner.
Yep.
And so we behave well in front of everybody else, but you have to have a little time to let things go and
Yes.
not be perfect all the time,
That
right?
is so true.
And so I think sometimes we take our partner for granted.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
use them as a
And it's
sounding board.
hopefully a safe place to
Yeah.
act out a little bit,
Yeah.
but not to the extent where you're saying hurtful things or you're
Right.
creating more damage
and
to the
harming your
relationship.
relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then, and I know that you will talk about this quite a bit, like identifying, like, where did you really hear that? Where's that belief coming
That's
from?
right. That's
Yeah.
right. And the kind of the rule of thumb that I use is, if you hear a disagreement and one of the partners is really escalating really, in a sense, overreacting, something else is going on.
Right.
So it's like, let's take a look at that. And when I work with my couples, one of the first things we do is we identify past patterns that that they were raised with, their family of origin, the people they grew up with, birth order, where were you, and how much attention did you get or not get, and so forth, because you take that into your marriage with you.
Right.
There's a therapist who I really like. His name is Terry Real. He's a present-day therapist. He's got a lot of podcasts. I've seen him.
How do you spell his last name?
Real, like the word real,
R-E-A-L.
real,
Yeah.
like real good.
Okay, I love it.
And he talks. He has this quote that I use, and it says, "We marry our unfinished business."
Oh, wow.
And I use that with all of my couples. Guys, we're talking about some tension here, some conflict, but there's some unfinished business that's also going on. And what does that mean? What does that look like? We start to kind of dissect that a little
I
bit.
love that. So, and I think this has been around for a long time, but I feel like it's just getting more popular or well known, is the internal family systems
Yep.
or family systems.
Yep.
Can you share a little bit more about
Sure. I mean, as a systemic thinker, we don't live on an island. We're not rocks. We're not, individual. Even my individual therapy is not specific just to the individual in front of me. It's how did you relate to another person in your life, whether it's your boss or, whoever it is that's affecting you. So it's a system of how we grew up. And within that system are unconscious messages that we receive. There's conscious messages we receive. What do I mean by that? Well, if somebody was putting you down a lot, that's a very conscious message. If your parent was saying, you're no good, you're no good, you're no good, that's a conscious message. The unconscious message could be something different that isn't verbalized.
But that is a belief of
that
yours.
you perceive and internalize, exactly.
Yeah.
Then there's a lot of times there's alliances that happen in families. So mom and big brother gang up on little sister, or the kids and the mom gang up on dad. So there's beliefs, there's alliances, there's a number of things that go into this that play out, not just in the family that we grew up in, but in our everyday couples relationships,
Right.
and even in our work relationships.
Yeah, in any relationship.
In any
really.
relationship,
Yeah, and how
yeah.
you perceive things. And also maybe you're hearing the critique, the voice
Right.
of someone from, like, it
Your
could have been a
past.
bully in kindergarten.
That's so
that
true.
it's coming up now,
That
right?
is so true.
Or a parent or a sibling that has that little
Yes.
voice that. So do you ask people to identify that?
I do.
Whose voice are you hearing when you hear that?
I absolutely do.
Self-criticism. Yeah.
Usually I've gathered that information prior to that question, meaning we've done some work on, what I call the wounded child. Some people call it that too, but it used to be, let's see, there's been the inner child. You've heard a lot about the inner child, which came
And
forth.
the protector, the protector
absolutely.
trying to save, protect the little child that didn't feel safe.
That's exactly right. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of labels and titles of this, but basically we carry that hurt child within us, and we bring it into our marriage. And part of what I hope to teach and get them to heal is that we don't need to be that person anymore. It was important back then to have a strategy. I've been bullied. How do I defend myself? How do I? And that's usually by shutting down, or maybe becoming a perfectionist or the funny person so that people like you. Whatever your strategy was.
Right.
When you're in a marriage, we don't need that anymore.
Right.
We have to learn to trust our partners and be safe, so that we're not bringing up old battles and old wounds all the time.
Right.
It's not an easy thing.
So I love that you want to talk about conflict resolution or discussing.
Yes.
To maintain those healthy relationships, because if you just ignore things or keep them in, and then you blow up about something really silly, and they're like, "Why are you so mad about
That's
that?"
right. That's right. That has nothing to
it's
do with it.
nothing,
Yeah.
but it's like all the things that you've been accumulating in your memory bank, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a great point. Healthy couples, how do they fight or argue? I mean, one of it is they fight fair, I guess is a good way to say it, is that I'm not out to hurt you by giving my opinion or saying I disagree with you. That's one of the rules. I'm not going to say something demeaning just to get my point across. Usually the unfair fighting comes from a very different place. It's not coming from an adult. It's coming from a child who's reacting.
Right.
So we do a lot of that. How do you speak to one another with kindness and respect and still be able to be angry? You can be angry. You can disagree.
Right. And creating healthy boundaries.
Absolutely.
So that you're protecting your space too.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Boy, you'd be a good therapist.
Oh, thanks. Well, pharmacy is a lot of therapy.
Well, that is
we're
true.
We're counseling patients a lot, and they're
That's
coming
so
in
true.
with fears and illnesses, and
Yes.
so there's a lot to it.
Yes.
And I do think it is certain people's tendency is to be compassionate, to be good listeners, and
Yes.
and to want things to work out.
Yes, for
And
sure.
It does take work. You
It
do have
does.
to work for that.
You do.
Yeah.
You do.
Any healthy relationships, it is effort. And we were talking about this off screen too, about pausing. Like if
Yes.
someone does something and it bothers you, take a breath, take a moment, pause, and just reflect on that. And oftentimes, and this was again with my pharmacy world, people would come in and they'd yell at me because their prescription's not ready or the copay was too high, and it's not me.
Yes.
That they're angry with. So
Yes.
I would have to diffuse the situation. And what I learned, I took a great class in college called Interpersonal Skills and Communications.
Okay.
And it was a required course for our pharmacy program. And it was so great because they had these videos of a person coming in and screaming at the pharmacist, and the pharmacist going, "Well, you blah blah blah," and of course, as soon as you say "you,"
Oh, forget it.
the conversation's done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of funny.
No, it's true. And you said that, you have to have healthy boundaries, and take that pause is so important. And sometimes that pause is not a 30-second pause. Sometimes that pause is, let's put this topic away and revisit it a couple of
when
days
it's not
from
so
now
heated.
or next week, or something like that. It's so important because then it escalates. More hurtful words come out that are hard to take back sometimes.
And that's the problem, is you can't take them back.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think taking the time, because you chose this person to be with, right? And putting the effort in. And when you have a couple that comes to you, like as a new client,
Yep.
do you ask them do you really want to make this work?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to know their level of commitment. If they're unsure, what have you tried in the past? What's been successful? What hasn't been? What's the crux of what's going on now? Is it just a new phase? Okay, we're empty nesters now, and we don't know how to connect anymore.
Yeah.
We used to connect through the kids. Of course, we connected before we had kids. Then we got all caught up in the kids. Now we're in a very funny place. that doesn't have to be a make or break. I mean,
Right.
it's just a learning how to accept,
Yeah.
you know, kind of the new
The new-
patterns
the
and
new-
the newness of
the new
being,
normal, yeah.
the new normal.
I know when my kids went away to college, Joe and I didn't disagree a lot. It was just we were mourning. And I didn't even know it.
Yes.
I'm like, why am I sad? Why am I?
Yes.
And they're not there. Our
No.
life is
Your whole
changed.
life for the last 18
Yeah.
years or whatever.
You know, and he coached all their sports
That's
and
right.
things, and so all that's different.
It is.
So
And then even the boundaries change at that point too, where, you know, you might want to check up and see how your child's doing in college, but then you're like, well, I got to give them this space, let them kind of
Right.
figure it out.
Right.
That's an adjustment,
it
you know.
is. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I love that you give people the skills to do that.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. So what other kind of homework assignments do you give?
Well,
Like I love the business meeting. I think
Yes.
that's for anybody. Like I'm trying to do myself because I own my studio. and
Yes.
I'm trying to make CEO time where I sit down and I do business things
Absolutely.
the same days, the same times,
Yes.
just so I'm not like putting out fires all the
Yes, yes.
You know?
And well, sometimes it's not going to be the same time of the
Right.
week. You know, you
Right.
have to look at each other's schedules.
Yeah.
But there's two things. I don't know that there's so much as assignments as we try to practice in sessions, so hopefully it spills out into,
Okay.
you know, their relationship. But there's two phrases that I use, that I try to employ and use in the sessions that I don't think you can say enough. And that is, I'm sorry and thank you. And so I'm sorry is, you know, it's an acknowledgement, it's an ownership of, I realize I hurt you. That wasn't my intention, but that doesn't make it okay.
Right.
I realize I hurt you, I said the wrong things, I was in the heat of the moment, and I apologize for that. I love you, I didn't mean it.
Powerful.
And then the thank you is one that few people say. You'd be surprised. I have an example, you know, we'll just make it the woman gets up early, or the wife gets up early, she gets up really early, she makes a big pot of coffee, and then he comes down and the coffee's already made, she's already poured it in a cup for him, and it works out great, and it was no problem for her. But just the thank you for doing this for me. You could have drank the whole pot of coffee, or you could have just made one cup for yourself, but you do this every morning knowing that I'm gonna get up. So it could be the smallest thing,
Yeah.
but that thank you is just an acknowledgement of, I realize you're doing something for me. And it goes so far.
Yeah,
you know?
it does. It really does.
And I also tell people, there's no statute of limitations on a thank you and an apology.
Aw.
You can talk to someone 6 months later and say, you know, I just want you to know what you did for me last summer really meant a lot. Thank you. Or, you know, I was thinking about something in my head and I realized I was kind of a little nasty to you. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You know, it
yeah.
doesn't have to be in the moment.
Right.
But the more we develop that skill of saying thank you and I'm sorry, I think it's a really good connection for partners. I
Yeah.
really do.
And it's just common courtesy that you would probably give to a stranger.
That is such a good point,
Right?
right?
Yeah.
So why do we take for granted the
Yeah.
people that we love the most?
Right.
That's a great
Yeah.
point.
I think about that a lot. Like when I'm teaching yoga, I'll talk about like how we talk to ourselves
Yes.
and the mindset and like the way we talk to ourselves. We would never talk to a person like that.
No.
But I think with our partner, we sometimes forget that.
Yes.
We talk to them.
Yes.
Sometimes the way we talk to ourselves.
Yeah, well, that's true. Hey, he's my best friend. He can handle
Yeah,
it.
right.
Whatever.
But saying that thank you and I'm
Yeah.
sorry is super powerful.
Yes, and I try to get them into a pattern of that they can extend it to other people in
Yeah.
their lives who they haven't talked to,
Yeah.
or they're uncomfortable giving that appreciation. I haven't talked to that person in 6 months. Well, that might be a nice way to
Yeah.
get in touch with someone.
yeah.
Who doesn't want a thank you or an apology?
And how good does it feel when someone says, I was thinking of you?
Yes.
I'm reaching out because I was thinking of you and I'm sorry, or
Yep.
I want to thank you for that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
They're all feel-good stuff, and the more feel-good stuff you can put into your dialogue makes it a little bit easier, I think,
Yeah.
when you're talking about conflict.
And I think with everything, what you focus on expands.
Yes.
You know, so if you're focusing on working on your relationship and communicating well and being clear in what you're saying, or pausing when you know that you're not really present, it's just going to make things easier.
Yes,
So much easier.
No,
and
it's
then
so
you're going
true.
to find more good.
yes.
You know, you find the good in your partner and you're going to start seeing more of that. If I'm constantly looking for what he's doing wrong, then I'm just going to keep finding more.
You are going to find them. You're going to find a lot of
Right,
them.
yeah.
Exactly.
And it's just not as fun as finding what's going well.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's so true. And you know, we have a hard time with dialogue, right? We're not trained on how to be spouses, right?
Right.
A lot of what we learn is from our parents' example, and some of that are not good examples.
Right.
So we do tend to take in information. We're these little sponges. We're growing up in this environment, whatever good or bad, we're taking in all of this information. And then it plays out in our partnerships and our marriages. And some of it's great, some of it not so much. So being able to identify that, communicate that, apologize, thank yous, and take in that space. I like that you said that, the pause. I just say taking a break, but I like your phrase better.
I just like practice the pause. I think it's just fun
I love it. I love it.
And you just, it's something you can remember to do.
Yes.
And it could be a pause of a breath, or like you said, it could be a pause of a week, or, table it for now and come back to it. And let it diffuse.
And I have that often. They go home, my clients will go home, they'll practice something and it doesn't work. They at least know to take the break. They come back to me and they go, we tried, but it didn't really work. We kind of
try it this way.
We do it again. We look at that. So they have a safe place, hopefully, with me to be able to practice it and look at it a little bit differently. So,
do you teach them so in pharmacy counseling, there's motivational interviewing, and they talk about motivational interviewing all the time, but how you teach back kind of stuff, but not saying you always do this, it's I feel, I hear,
absolutely.
I see.
Absolutely.
That's something that you really focus on?
I focus a lot on that, and having them speak to each other, not me, because a lot of times it's like, well, she did this, or I really don't like it when he does that. Tell him, tell her, turn toward each other. And speak to one another. I'm just here in the background. Talk to one another. But it's also building those strengths. I didn't appreciate that you did this, but you did this really well. Building on those kinds of strengths.
Like this sandwich, right?
Yes.
A compliment and a nugget. We call it a nugget in teacher training.
Okay.
Like when you're giving somebody feedback when they're a new teacher. This was really great. This is a little nugget I would tweak, and then this is another really good thing. So you have that bookends of something positive or kind.
I also try to get my couples to use we statements outside of the session, so that they're not always saying, well, I want to do this, and I'm thinking of implementing this idea while they're talking to their friends. Speak as a we. You guys are together. And even if you disagree on something, it will be a we decision.
Right.
It's not going to be an I decision or a you decision. It's going to be a we. And I have them practice that, and you'd be surprised how many people do not use we statements as a couple.
That's funny. Joe and I just had this conversation the other day because I use we statements for things I'm not doing. I said, well, we're going to plant the garden. And he goes, oh, we are.
Oh, we are. Oh, that's great. I love it.
So I'm trying
so you've taken that and ran with it. So
I'm trying to be careful about.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, it is funny. Yeah,
I think that's a better problem.
I know, right? It's just funny because he's like, oh, we are. I did it. I'm like, I know you did.
But it's also better than, well, you're going to go out there and play. Nobody wants to hear that. It's like, could you do this?
You feel like a child then.
That's
I would.
exactly.
Just even you just saying that, I would feel like I was a little kid being scolded.
Yes.
And you don't want that from your partner.
Yes, that's exactly right. And that's another part of systemic, therapy is hierarchy is a big part of communication with your spouse, but also in the family. So if you have elevated a child into the parental hierarchy, let's say, so parents are here, kids are here, in terms of making big decisions.
Right.
If you've elevated one child, and I think we've all seen it before, and mom and daughter or son, or dad and daughter or son are kind of making those decisions, you've basically knocked the other spouse out of that hierarchy. And that's a boundary and a hierarchy issue. You got to keep the boundaries where, they're porous. Kids can talk, we can communicate, but there's a hierarchy there. It's not, and the hierarchy has to be the two spouses on the same level. When you speak like you just mentioned, where you feel like a child, that's because one person is being treated like a child, and so they're on the lower end of the hierarchy. That's not going to work. It has to be balanced. It has to be a partnership. So that's a great example.
Even if the other spouse doesn't know they're doing that, or they didn't even intend to do it
they
that
often
way,
don't.
but they're hearing what they heard as a child.
That's
and
right.
so they just need to be able to share that.
That's
Like
exactly right.
When that happened, I felt,
Yes.
like I was being scolded by my mom.
Yes.
Or whatever, yeah.
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 Yeah. I don't know if you ever hear this from people. They're usually joking, but I hear this a lot with friends or whatever. And they'll say, well, my husband acts like a child, so I feel like I'm a mother to an extra child. And it's like, well, so, if you treat someone like a child, they're going to act like your child. So, I get it. But, you have to try to be respectful and keep people on the same hierarchy, the same level.
Right. And I have heard that, like people say they literally have 3 children, but they say they have 4.
That's exactly right. You hear it a lot.
Right. Yeah.
So, and it's funny if it's in jest, but
right. Yeah.
So, but that can play out.
Again, absolutely. And so, any other little tidbits you'd like to share with the viewers for when do you know to see a therapist? Like, when is there ever too early or too late?
No, I don't think so. With couples, it's almost always one person that makes, that kind of is driving that. And it is not uncommon for me to have 2 people come into a session and one person say, I really didn't want to come. And I say, I don't blame you, I get it. But I was told if we don't get some help, there's going to be major problems. So usually in that case, it's often driven by one person, and that's okay.
Okay.
As long as they get there, to get the help and are open to it, that's okay. For individuals, it's kind of funny. I think that's often driven by another person too. Okay. Whether it's a parent or whether it's a friend or something. Boy, you've got a lot on your plate. You should probably get some help with this. Yeah. Or somebody who has had therapy and can recognize that if you don't do something, it's really going to escalate. Yeah. So there's often a referral involved, not necessarily a professional referral.
Right. Yeah. A suggestion.
A suggestion, exactly. Exactly. But no, I don't think it's too early. I mean, I think even if you have a 2-year-old, there are specialists that do play therapy. There, I'm not one of them, but there are ways to help. Typically, if it's a young child, I'm just going to say 7 or 8 or so. The way that I would do it is I would see the family first. Okay. I would do family therapy. What is this child reacting to? Because there's a lot of things going on. Maybe it started in the school. He or she is hitting somebody. What's going on? Don't just throw the 7-year-old in to talk about it who doesn't have the skills to maybe articulate.
Right.
Bring the family in. What's going on at home? And then from there, oftentimes the child can have their own therapist as well. So it does depend on the age, and it depends on the severity of the problem. But for the most part, I don't think you're ever too young, or it's too early.
Yeah, so. I think it's always good to have someone to talk to, and it's a safe environment.
Yes.
You're non-biased,
yes.
And it's like having a referee in a sporting event.
That is so true.
Right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Especially if you can see both sides and be able to validate, well, you make a good point, but so do you. Something like that.
And can you compromise? Or,
Exactly.
Yeah, listening to each other.
Yes.
Just, I think you're helping people build skills.
That's exactly what it is.
That are going to help them every relationship.
Yes.
But especially that.
And once again, we don't go to school on, getting certified to be a spouse, right? We're taking in so many different belief systems, so many ideas, some of them not necessarily accurate, that we bring into the relationship. And if you come from a particularly, lack of a better word, dysfunctional family, then you've got even more to kind of go through. But you could come from a pretty healthy family and still have a lot of stuff that you want to unpack in your either individual session, or I try to do that in the couple session in front of the spouse, so that you can understand what this person went through, you can understand what this person went through.
Right.
It is a lot of work.
That is a lot of work.
So.
And it's worth it.
I
mean, you
think
made
so.
this commitment too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everything's work. One of the best advice I ever got when we got married, before we got married, is someone said, they actually gave this to a friend of mine before she got married, and she shared it with me, is the secret to like a long relationship is you have to put in the work.
Yeah, you do.
It's not easy. That honeymoon phase goes away, and you have to put in the work.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
And
a
so I'm
wonderful
glad that you're there
phase.
helping people.
There's nothing like the euphoric honeymoon phase.
Yeah.
And you can tap into that.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a one-time thing.
Right, right.
You know, you can get that back for vacations and for periods of time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because relationships they're kind of like a wave in a sense. They you know kind of come together and then it comes apart, comes together. So it's never going to stay static.
Right.
You know, it's always going to be we're a little bit more intimate. We had a lot of fun, whatever. And then there's the distance
Yeah.
because we're both individuals,
Right.
right? We're not
Yeah.
just a couple.
Right.
You know that whole two hearts beat as one.
Yeah.
No,
No. Right.
it's two hearts.
And when you complement each other, and you can really make a relationship thrive.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So.
And having that individuality, I think, is really important. Maintaining your own.
I think so.
Yeah.
I
And
think
again,
it's
that goes back to healthy boundaries. And miscommunication, I think, is fear, miscommunication. These are things that can really set us off track.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think another thing too is trying to get, like you said, have the individual interests, ideas, whatever, but you got to have something collective too.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you don't have to, my husband golfs like a fiend. I'm never going to do that. That does not have to be our connection.
Right.
It will not be our connection. But have some commonalities,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
have some things that you both enjoy doing
Yeah.
so that you can have your, you know, friend time and your work
Right,
time and your
right.
alone time, but you can come together and really enjoy each other's company
Yeah.
because there's something that's still there,
Yeah.
you know.
I love that.
So, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned the podcast with Terry Real.
Terry Real, yes.
Yeah?
He's become very popular probably over the last at least 10 years. He's written at least 4 or 5 books. He's done some work with male depression, which I think is such a great book. It's I Don't Want to Talk About It. I've read all his books, but I'm not going to remember all the titles right now. But he has done extensive work with couples who, once again, he's usually their last stop.
Okay.
They've done things, they've tried therapy, and they are, okay, if you can't fix us, we're done. So he's really, you know, helping these people. And he does intensive workshops. He does them all over the country, but he does some up in the Boston area, which is the closest one from around here. And he will accept 6 couples over the course of a weekend that are referred by their therapist, and he has them in a round circle, and the therapist, if they want to attend, will sit at the outer circle and say nothing, keep your
Wow.
mouth shut.
Wow.
And he does the work with each of these couples in front of the other couples, and then at the break, he meets with the therapists, and they talk about, you know, they might have questions. Why did you do that or say that or, you know, whatever, and then they give their feedback. What about this and so forth. And so these couples have a whole room full of therapists for an entire weekend.
Wow.
And the only issue, because I have tried to refer some of my couples, is it's very expensive.
Oh.
It's a weekend, it's a hotel, and insurance does not cover for it.
Right.
But for those who have had the opportunity to be part, he does a wonderful job.
That's great.
And just to see him in person doing that kind of work is just amazing.
neat.
So he is by far one of my favorite present day,
Great.
you know, therapists. And he
Yeah.
does podcasts. I think he was just on Mel Robbins.
Oh,
We were
was he?
talking about her.
Yeah,
I think he was one of her guests
Oh,
too.
that's so cool.
So he's real easy to pull up.
To find.
Yes,
and
for
he's got
sure.
a podcast, so yeah.
Yeah.
So, and as far as finding a good therapist, because I know it's hard to find a good
It
therapist,
is hard to find.
and if they're taking new people, do you have any suggestions on that? Like you ask if you have family or friends that are seeing a good
Yeah,
therapist
there's
to
2 ways.
refer?
I mean, most people who have found me are referral based.
Yeah.
But I also have a presence on Psychology Today network where it says find a therapist in such and such an area. And what they've done really well with these days, because technology is as good as it is, is it's got everything listed. So you can do a search by, I'm looking for a female therapist in this area who specializes in addiction, blah, 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 blah. You plug it in and it'll spill out a bunch of people.
good.
And it has their bios, a picture, and then most of us will do a free consult. So you can call, we can have a conversation, see if we're a good fit.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great way.
That's great.
You know, I think LinkedIn might have some of that too, but
Probably.
Psych Today
Okay.
is just great.
That's good.
So yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
Awesome. Do you have any other final words you'd like to share?
I just want to.
I know we could talk for hours. There's so many
Oh, we
different
could,
things that you
especially you and I. So there's so many things. Couples are complex. You know, they're two individuals coming from different points in their lives. They've developed their own different belief systems. Some are positive, some are not. But you know, just to find a good therapist, find somebody who's going to listen, who's going to help you tackle these things, and not just harp on all of the negative, but build your strengths, your hopes. I try to keep all of it positive, and I have had, unfortunately, couples where you've done everything you can, and that you can only go so far. But I also tell people, don't make it a one-stop shopping. If you see a therapist for a couple years and you got something from it, but you feel like you've come as far as you can, you are free to leave. And you can come back, or you can move on and try somebody else. I love it when I get clients who have had more than one therapist.
Good.
They learned a little here, they learned a little here.
Right.
Hopefully they'll learn a little bit from me.
Yeah.
So, you know, keep looking, keep working on it. So.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
It was fun. I hope that you got something out of this too, and that you enjoy the rest of your week, and be well.
Oh, bye-bye.
Thank you for joining me on Be Well. I hope today's conversation inspires at least one simple way for you to support yourself. Before you step back into your day, pause and choose one uplifting action you can gift yourself. What's your one thing going to be? Remember, small, consistent steps create meaningful change. Until next time, take a breath, take care, and be well.